So the Toronto Maple Leafs will start. This will be the third consecutive year they've had a different number one goaltender. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so in theory, it was Freddie Anderson. Last year was Jack Campbell. And it's either I assume
it's
they're going to tell us it's Matt Murray, but I can tell. I think by Christmas time it'll be the other guy.
Well, that being the case, so here's what we know: they decided that Anderson wasn't good enough.
Yes,
and they let him go. Why wasn't he good enough? Well, because his performance in the playoffs was less than his performance during the regular season. So he goes to Carolina, and what does he do? He's great.
Well, remember though, he didn't finish the regular season and really wasn't a factor in the playoffs.
No, but he was great during the regular season.
Very good. And if he wasn't hurt, he was going to be a Vezina nominee.
There you go. So it wasn't that they dropped a goaltender that wasn't good enough. They dropped a goaltender who probably was good enough. They didn't think he was. What happened last year?
Jack Campbell got off to a great start, went to the All-Star game and came back and flopped.
Yeah. And then was not great in the playoffs. Sort of
hold on. That's not true. You can't blame Jack Campbell for that 7-game series.
I'm not blaming him. I just said he wasn't great.
I tell you what.
I don't think
he wasn't.
No, he didn't.
He was. Listen, they did not lose because of Jack Campbell.
Look, that's not the point.
Okay.
I could argue that till the cows come home, but I won't, because the point is they decided they didn't want him. Okay, they didn't want him at a price.
No, they didn't want him at his price. That's right. That's right.
But Edmonton wanted him. Edmonton wanted him at his price, and there he is. So Edmonton thought he's a good enough goaltender to be paid. Was he being paid $5
million? Yeah.
Thought he was good enough to be a $5 million goaltender. Kyle Dubas doesn't think so. Kyle Dubas didn't think Anderson was worth it. I think Anderson showed him. Now he thinks Campbell isn't worth it. We'll see if he shows him. And who does he bring in? He brings in a guy who, I grant you, is cheaper.
Yeah.
But he is not the same guy, has not been the same guy as he was in Pittsburgh. Is that fair?
Well, I think that's really fair. I think that, again, as off the top, I think that the goaltending issue in Toronto is one of their biggest question marks. You know, it's going to be a huge factor. And if you think that playing in Toronto doesn't have more pressure than playing in Ottawa or Pittsburgh, oh my goodness.
Well, I mean, again, I hate to bring it back to this, but the guy who's making these decisions is the general manager of the hockey club, who I gather it's now been conceded this is kind of the last chance. It's his last contract.
His contract expires next summer, Bob. So they're going to have to fish or cut bait at some point if they feel Kyle is or isn't doing the job, right? Don't you think?
Well, I would have done it before this, but
yes, I know that.
But nonetheless, yes, I mean, that's the definitive answer. And what does he have to do in order to keep his job, in your opinion?
Third round of the playoffs.
That would be minimum for me, yeah.
I think if you win 2 playoff rounds, and because let's remember, since the last time the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup, they have been to the third round of the playoffs. I'm going to just off the top of my head say 4 times. They've been to this. So in 57 years, they've been to the third round 4 times. That's where that'll be the measuring stick, you know, and you know, you mentioned Edmonton with Jack Campbell. The Oilers got to the third round this year and took a ton of pressure off of what Kenny Holland is trying to build in Edmonton. And so I think a third round arrival for the Maple Leafs would quell a lot of the pressure. And this would be now a situation where this generation of Maple Leaf fans would look at the third round and just they'd be riding horses up and down Yonge Street again, like they did in the mid 90s.
With the third round?
Sure. Well, that's what, yeah, they would be.
That's
Listen, but hold on. This is a town, Bob. This is a town that, this and a generation of sports fans here that you have the Raptor championship in 2019. It's let's face it, it's way up here. It is the pinnacle. But let's talk about the success of the Jays. Everybody still talks about 2015. How far did they go in 2015? People are talking about that as being an iconic season. They didn't get to the World Series. They didn't. And so the Maple Leafs, to get to the third round and 3 rounds of playoffs, this town would be wild.
Well, it might be, but it shouldn't be.
No, but it would be. And people will be talking. That we had Dougie Gilmour on last week. Dougie Gilmour took the Maple Leafs, won a Stanley Cup in Calgary. He took
them to the conference final.
2 conference finals. The third round. Lost 1 in 7 games, lost 1 in 5.
Yeah.
And he's a legend in Toronto. A legend. So this town will accept any level of winning. And I think that measures
what the town does is one thing. And look, they go crazy if they win one hockey game. If they win a preseason game, they get excited.
Well, that's next week. So,
beers are on me. But
hold on, folks. Did you hear that?
Yeah, if you want a preseason
if the Leafs win next week, Bob's buying beer.
Yeah.
We can meet.
Well, but that's the kind of town it is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take much to get hockey fans excited, enthused, and optimistic.